2, 1. Hello everybody and welcome to the first reintroduction of Unsealed. I am Anta571 and I today will be having Caged Reaper here as my guest for this episode. Today we'll be talking about power level rankings as well as the upcoming season of Seal that is already underway. So, Cage, would you like to have a few words real quick before we get into it?
Yeah, sure. So this started off as a little bit of a, I don't even know how to talk about it. It started off as like a curiosity thing. We were kind of curious as to where the top laners in the league were all going to land. And then, because I've done almost all of the scouting for Players Reborn over the period of time, and I've been playing in the league for a little while, I've played against, scrimmed with, or subbed for probably about half of the league. So I had a fairly good idea of most of the upper division players. People loved the top lane list and they wanted more, and so now there's a whole ton. These are not just my opinions, they're based on my opinions, my algorithm, plus the input of a handful of other people who I respect in each position. Bot lane especially, because I'm not great at bot lane, and I don't have a whole lot of knowledge about it. I leaned pretty heavily on about 5 or 6 different people to help me rank things. So if you get butthurt, you can take it up with me, and I'll tell you to shove it.
All right. So, with that, we will go ahead and actually go into the power level rankings. We will start with the top lane. Now, mind you, this is only counting players from last season who would have returned for this season. So this will not have any of the new players. So if you want to get on to another power level ranking, should we do this in the future, make a name for yourself this season.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. A handful of people on this list either are not back this season. We tried to avoid people who weren't coming back this season, but a handful of people dropped late. And this is based pretty heavily on last season's statistics. There is some hanging statistics from people who've been around in SEAL for a while playing the same role. And yeah, there's none of the new people, so that'll make it a little bit exciting going forward.
Yep. All right, with that, I'm going to go ahead and transition us into the power levels for top lane. And to start it off with, at number 10, we have Caron Fronds.
So for those of you who don't know, SEAL's best laning top laner, Caron Fronds played on the number 2 team in Shurima last season. He's known predominantly for his carry play and his lane dominant style. However, he's a little vulnerable to gank, and his KDA kind of reflects that. But that's why we have him showing up here at 10. Not too shabby to start things off.
And you'll see there's a rank that's listed here. This rank was probably just when you were doing it. Caron's fluctuated between platinum and gold for the past several seasons.
Oh, yeah, so points on the player cards. The player card rank is based off of the rank that I took off of Porofessor, which takes your highest aggregate rank of ranked solo queue and ranked flex, I believe, from last season. The player cards are significantly better for the top 3 positions because in bot lane I was a degen and I didn't get around to doing them in time, and Porofessor dumped all of the 2010 or 2020, not 2010, dumped all the 2020 statistics, and so the statistics are based almost exclusively on seal rather than on seal and ranked play. I can be louder, Tuba. I'm very good at being loud.
Yeah, so I just changed it, so we'll keep checking in to see that if it's any better or any worse for him. All right.
So moving right up the list, we have a 2-way tie for eighth place between one Taco's Taco Truck and the Illuminati. Both champions tending towards a more carry-oriented play style, set a big champion for both of them. The biggest difference between the two of them is that Taco has a bit of a wider champion pool. He is more capable of picking up tanks, but the Illuminati has more of a 1v9 potential and absolutely can be destructive at times. But you got to keep the Vladimir out of his hands. He can be a bit of a Vladimir one-trick if you let him. And as we get up to the next set, we have a 3-way tie for 5th, which is part of the reason why I did a top 10 ranking instead of a top 5 ranking, because I didn't want to break this tie, and it was making me quite cranky. So in the 3-way tie for 5th, we have our own retired Ansem 571, one particularly perturbed dragon, and Koite. Looking at the 3 of them, it was really difficult to break this tie because they are 3 separate sides of the same coin. You've got Ansem, who is a tank player predominantly and is more of a team-oriented player. Koite, I think, has been held back in SEAL traditionally by being on rather poor teams that have wanted him to change his style. Koite's strength comes from being a hard carry, and you tend to see him perform exceptionally well on those carries. Vexed is a little bit of the difference here. He plays more odd champions. He's more of a pocket pick player. He's one of the resident Alawi mains in the SEAL Discord. If you take the Alawi away from him, he has some strange things that either work or don't, depending on the situation. And those are that 3. All 3 are bad. Yeah, Dad, I kind of tend to agree with you. All 3 are bad. They're all too abusable. You can figure out a way to beat all of them. Coming up... Oh, what do you want to say about that answer? You defend yourself.
Yeah, so while that may be true, one of them still actually won last season.
Fair. Koite's in a pretty good spot to come back this season, though. I'll be interested to see how he performs on a better team.
Yeah, he's actually going to be unlocked this season, I hope. Even when he was on my team as a top laner, when I was a support earlier last year, he was very limited, and I really wish I didn't do that to him. He's really too good of a player to do that otherwise. But yep.
Oh, and shameless plug for the Vex Dragon here. If you ever want to watch a stream about somebody crying about the meta the whole time, go watch Vex stream. It's great. It absolutely fills that need to have somebody be furious at the enemy team for playing champions that are effective in the meta. I love it every time. Moving on, in fourth place, we have the first of our lower division players actually to show up in Cheeseblaze. Cheeseblaze is fairly well known from his time smurfing in Freljord and Noxus. Oh, sorry, I know I'm not supposed to use that word anymore. Well, just beating the shit out of kids. Cheeseblaze is a Fiora Urgot 2-trick. Yeah, I know, that wasn't much better. Cheeseblaze is a Fiora Urgot 2-trick. If you take him off those champions, his ability to carry is less. But if you give him his Urgot, you will lose the game. And there will be nothing that you can do about it. And I think he might be the highest ranked of the lower division players, just based on the sheer domination that he's demonstrated, as well as his really, really strong underlying statistics. But that's a champion that's a player that we always like to watch when he decides to show up.
Yep. After he takes the Fiora and Urgot off because of bans and whatnot, he does significantly drop. I remember playing against him. I'm pretty sure it was Cheeseblaze. Long time ago, but he's not a bad player. I personally believe that he is just highly overvalued because he's been basically just destroying everybody in Pislow.
I mean, and that was the accusation against him. A handful of people thought that I overranked him. I've casted a lot of his games, and I think that his playstyle carries over. I just think that the only thing that really limits Cheese from being even more powerful is the fact that he is limited with the champions that he plays.
Mm-hmm. And also, this is for fun, so am I a little toxic? Yes, but that's not the point. The point is, we're just here to have fun with this for Unsealed and for these power rankings, so just not too extreme for everybody, but of course everybody wants to know who's number one, so let's go ahead and move on to number 3.
Number 3, you have one of the most difficult to handle top laners in Seal, in Snizbone. The resident top laner of the Silverbacks, Snizbone is an absolute headache to handle because he plays just about every style. You give him Scion, he destroys you. You take away Ornn, he picks Gnar, and then he kills your tank. You try to stop him from playing tanks, and he plays Camille, and then he's jumping on your back line.
Yeah.
Snizbone is absolutely a difficult person to handle. Snizbone's biggest negative is the fact that he is not one of the people who's going to solo carry a game. I say that after the fact that Snizbone solo carried one of the only games the Players Reborn lost all of last season.
Yeah, so I remember those games. I don't remember game 1 per se. Like, I remember that was the game that he hard carried on. Game 2, I remember a lot more clearly. I was playing Ornn into his Jax, I believe. And this is another thing that I found that actually is a way to get around Snizbone's hard carry potential. If you do fall behind, but you're able to wave clear, so that way he can't push his advantage, then he just starts getting more and more frustrated, and then he starts losing his mental.
Unless he's playing Scion, and then he ults across the map and kills our whole team again. Anyways, Snizbone, number 3, with a power level of 88. I think if we were to pull the top 10 players across all roles, I think that still lands him in the top 10 of all the roles.
Maybe as a special mention.
Yeah, if not, still significantly there. He'd either be honorable mention or filling right into the bottom. Moving on next, Ansem's replacement on Players Reborn, the better resident Alawi one trick, TTU Phoenix. Another person who has languished on hit and miss teams the past couple of seasons. Phoenix is one of the people who will absolutely end your game if you give him Alawi. And you won't understand how it's happening or why it's happening. And then you get Alawi ulted and everybody disappears and you're left looking up. The biggest problem that Phoenix has sometimes is kind of like all Alawi mains. He likes to overextend and doesn't always have the best vision control of his river.
Yeah, that's true. Tries to overthink some matchups as well from scrims that we had back when we were on separate teams. So if you cause him to overthink, his top lane brain can't handle it.
That feels like most top brainers, or top brainers.
Yeah,
That's
we're
what I'm
top
gonna call them
brainers.
from now on. Top brainers. Yeah. And after speaking of top brainers who tend to get caught, in the top spot for top, and also with the highest ranking in this entire Seal cast, we have the one, the only, the monster in top lane, Tuba. If you've ever played against his Rumble, you'll never forget it. And even if you've banned his Rumble, you probably can remember at least one game where you thought you were winning, and then Tuba came out of top lane and man-moded the entire game, and you still don't know how, and somehow Tuba won. The thing that sets Tuba apart from most of the other top laners, and really most just about everybody else in the league, is Tuba almost never takes a bad or a losing fight. The amount of times I've seen Tuba trade and get caught on something, I think I can count on one hand. Every time that Tuba seems to take a fight, he pretty much wins it. The best thing that I've seen done to handle Tuba is neutralize him by keeping your lane state as passive as possible, because he will let you be passive, and he doesn't normally want to take a bad fight that it would require him to do to break your passive approach.
Yeah, the only time that has changed is when he had... Yes, self-plug. Tuba and I have gone against each other well for the last 3 or 4 years now. Since, for those of you who can count, that is before Sealed, in a league called Vantage. And as you can tell, the power level ranking is very different between him and I. So I have to be creative with how I can go up against him. And because of the creativity that I have come up with against him in the past, his mindset is completely thrown out the window against me, which was actually how I presented myself for Players Reborn, to be, hey, I will bring Tuba down to my level.
And that's really what you can do, is just try not to fight the Tuba. The fun thing about this season, at least up in Ionia, is we have those 3 top laners on 3 top teams in Ionia. And I think thus far, Snizbone has the 2-0 edge on Tuba.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. But plug for probably next Sunday, Snizbone and TTU Phoenix will be lining up on opposite sides of the rift.
Yep.
For another rumble in the top lane.
Oh, God. Don't you do that. But yeah, no, like, Tuba is really just a great top laner. The thing that I noticed, though, is that for those first couple of years that I would go against Tuba, he couldn't play in a matchup where he didn't get the counter pick. I even called him out in a best of 5 that we had one time that he couldn't do exactly that. Game 1, he got the counter matchup. Games 2 and 3, he didn't, and he lost. Game 4, he got a counter matchup, but he wasn't used to it, I guess, or something. I don't know what happened. We don't talk about Game 5. But he has grown in this competitive setting for from Vantage into Seal, and he still has the same tendencies that he did before, and it'll be up for other people to figure out what those tendencies are. Because there are ways to beat him, and if you actually looked earlier this week, back on Sunday, Tuba ended up losing 2-0 and took several bad fights. So there are ways to beat him. You just have to look for it. It's not something that can truly be explained. You just have to keep doing it until you finally figure it out.
It also really helps when you have jungle pressure against Tuba, which can be a dangerous proposition at times.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on from the top lane.
Number 10 for the jungler.
Oh, we're moving over to jungle now. All right. Our number 10 ranked jungler is going to be Monte Carlo Method. Another one of the lower division players who managed to find their way up onto this list. Monte Carlo Method is notorious for his Warwick play. Beyond Warwick, he also shows up on some other tanks and bruisers. Having played with Monte Carlo a little bit and subbed in for his team a couple of times when I was still playing mid lane, the thing that he does really, really well is his objective control and his map presence are really, really strong. The biggest things that he struggles with, obviously, are with the champions that he plays. His CS can be a little bit low, and his kill participation's not always great. He's not always the most active jungler on the map. And can be a little bit of a Warwick one-trick, but I think that he's demonstrated some pretty good growth on other champions throughout Seal, getting it banned away from him.
And also, just so everybody knows, everybody in these power level rankings will have at least a passing grade. We're not going to see like a 40% in a top 10. I'm sorry. That's just not going to happen. So, first 70s, but still hitting up there with the other junglers.
Next, from Ionia Division last season, in 9th place, we have Budwolf. Budwolf is a Kayn one-trick. He's diversified since coming into Seal. He's an over-aggressive jungler at times, so he kind of is a double-edged sword, and he lives on the edge. He simultaneously has really high aggression, but also can take really bad invades. And I think that as we get a little higher up, we'll find another Kayn one-trick who has kind of the similar playstyle. And with people who focus on certain champions, Alawi mains, I feel like you can tend to find sometimes similar patterns and weaknesses that their champion maybe doesn't punish them for, but other champions will. Kayn, especially with the mobility and the ability to run through walls, you can escape from poor situations that you find yourself in a little bit better than you might otherwise.
Yeah, I've had Budwolf on and against my own team. I can agree to those.
After Budwolf, we have another lower division player in Randomonium, who, again, the lower division players seem to really like the Amumu Warwick Jarvan. And I'm going to guess that's because down in Freljord and Noxus, y'all like to fight, and fight a lot.
Well, from what I've seen, Amumu has become like this staple jungler that all Seal junglers play. Like, it doesn't matter to the division. Like, all junglers, when Amumu is played and sealed, I think it has something like a 80-90% win rate when for whoever picks it, and that's across like since season 0 for sealed. So for 2 years, Amumu's just been this like monstrosity of a jungler. He's not that high picked like other junglers like Gragas or Lee Sin or what you would expect in a competitive controlled environment, but Amumu still does everything you would need for a frontline jungler. So if you're a jungler and you don't pick up Amumu, then you're the odd man out in Seal, I feel.
All right, and then I'm going to flip that and say, for all you idiots still playing Amumu, I have my highest mastery on Amumu. Amumu's dog right now. Don't play that champion. It's terrible. It's a garbage waste of time. Go learn a different tank. It's tragic, but Riot broke him and then nerfed him to the point where he's not a relevant champion anymore.
To answer the question, so Unsealed, is this going to be a weekly thing? Unsealed, which is what this is going to be a weekly thing. Power level rankings is not going to be a weekly thing. If we do, then Caged here would probably be dead before the end of week 3.
Oh yeah, no. This power rankings took somewhere around 12 hours, and it will not be 10 strong ever again. There might be a top 5 players update that happens closer to playoffs, but this was a much bigger endeavor than it was ever intended to be, and yeah, that's all I have to say about that.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you, based Cage Reaper.
This was supposed to be a quick rank people thing, but then I couldn't, in good conscience, do that without looking at everybody's underlying statistics. And I hate statistical analysis. Don't make me do it again, please.
Okay.
All right, so after Randomonium, who has performed exceptionally well in the team fights of lower divisions, we have Mayor of Huevos, who is a very odd jungler. Mayor likes weird picks. Mayor has always played on Tuba's team, which leads to a slightly different approach to the game, I feel like, when you have a rock up in the top lane. And so Mayor does a little bit of everything. Mayor's biggest weakness, though, is tank play. He will frequently opt to pick Smurb, we got more than just junglers. We've got the whole kit and caboodle rank today.
Check the VOD on YouTube later tonight.
If you missed top lane, we just did top lane. We'll probably pop over to the entire spread after this. And if people are interested, I can post a link to the Google document that it's all on in the Discord later for your browsing pleasure. But yeah, so Mayor can play a little bit of everything, doesn't do great on tanks, and takes poor ganks at times, but really, really excels, kind of like all of Mouthfeel, I guess they are this season, with their team fighting and they're working together. And he's tied at 6th place with rated DR20. Oh, rated R20. It would help if I could read. Rated R20. I don't know if he's come back this season.
He has not come back this season.
Okay. Well, then I'm just going to gloss over it and say Rated R20 is a carry player who likes to die a lot and can't play tanks. After that, in 5th place, we have Ace Pat, another one of the Warwick. Actually, I think Warwick gets more play than Amumu, if we're being honest. I feel like there's more Warwick players in the Seal than there are Amumu players. Or maybe Warwick players and Amumu players are the same thing, and that's what happens there.
They are.
But in 5th, we have Ace Pat, who I believe at the last second took the season off, as did the person in 4th place above him. So for all y'all hoping to get on one of these lists, Jungle has taken a bit of a hit this season. And a lot of people have left the list. So Pat is a assassin player predominantly, Warwick Nocturne Kha'Zix, and his strength is macro and team play. Just above Pat in 4th place is Holv, who is the other Kane one trick that we talked about. Holv plays 2 champions, Kane and Zach, and if you ban them out, Holv runs it. And I think Holv is also taking a season off.
Yes, he is. We haven't heard any news about Holv, but he was the jungler last season for
Team Tempest, who... Oh, no, he was the Squirtle Squad jungler.
Yeah, the Squirtle Squad jungler. Yep. He was with Team Tempest for Season 3.
Just plugging that the Squirtle Squad got beat so bad by Players Reborn that they didn't come back this season. Anyway, moving on to number 3 in the jungle. My least favorite person to face in the jungle, jungling for the Silverbacks, giving the Silverbacks now 2 of the top 3 ranked players in both roles. You have Slowed. Slowed is a carry monster. Yes, Commander Quacks, I'm known for being incredibly toxic. That's why I have to censor myself in public normally. Slowed is a monster. Slowed plays Graves, Jarvan, Hecarim. I don't recall what he just played the last weekend, but Slowed has really strong pocket picks. It's really difficult to prepare a draft against Slowed because you think you know what he's going to play and then he plays something else. The only knock that you could have against Slowed is that sometimes he's a little overly cautious with his lead, but guy's a monster to play with and he'll invade you faster than just about anybody else. The difference between him and some of the lower ranked junglers that really sets Slowed apart is the fact that when he invades you, you probably die, and then he walks out with your whole jungle. And then there's actually a tie for first place in the jungle, in part because I felt like it was a little narcissistic to put myself in first place, but in part also because I Am Stro has been an absolute monster in Seal. Stro has been probably the top jungler in Seal in the lower divisions for the last couple of seasons. This last season, he and I went head-to-head in Shurima, and I came out on the winning end all 4 times we met, which... Oh, that's not true. They did take 1 game off us at the beginning of the regular season.
Yep.
But Slowed and I play completely opposite styles of... yeah, I know he's a mid laner now. He ran away because I beat him too bad in the show match.
Oof.
Hashtag Slowed running. Or that's not Slowed, Stro running. God, Slowed and Stro, you two, both are
Caged hates
carry
people.
nightmares.
Caged hates people. Confirmed.
Yeah, well, this is true. So Stro and I are kind of 2 sides of this, or 2 opposite sides of the jungle. I play objective control and team-oriented. Stro's trying to style on you and make it so that you can't even play your own game. If you've ever had somebody take 3 quadrants of your jungle on repeat for an entire game and wondered what the hell happened, it was odds are you played Stro or Slowed. So from Stro, you see his classic players are Lee Sin, Gragas, Graves, things that farm, punish, duel really well. Whereas I played a bit of Warwick last season, but Sejuani and AP Shyvana were some of my other top champions last season. Very, very different approaches to the game. Stro's Gragas is freakishly good, yeah. And I saw that he was playing at mid now, and if we're going to scrim you guys, we're banning it, Socks. I refuse to ever have his Gragas in my game. That was the only champion that I ever banned away from him. It also really didn't help that his old mid laner, Glitchy, loved playing Yasuo, and Gragas Yasuo is absolutely horrible. We have not done ADCs yet.
We're
doing mid laners
from top
next.
to bottom. So let's go ahead and get into that mid laner, because we don't need you to stroke your own dick.
Yeah, nope, I'm good with that. In the mid lane, at a tie for 9th place, we have Cyanide and Vrivnev. Cyanide has been absolutely smacking kids down in the lower division, but that is the lower division. And Vriv was playing well in lower divisions, moved up to higher divisions recently, and has been a little bit inconsistent. Vriv's biggest strength backing him up is the fact that he's on a team that has one of the best top jungle duos in the game. But I think Vriv's bigger problem is that he doesn't always pick the best matchups. He'll think a matchup's good that's not necessarily good. Whereas Cyanide is a little bit of a assassin player exclusively, and if you take away Akali and some of his other assassins, he doesn't perform quite as well. But I think in the lower divisions, he's been able to just kind of class on people. Mansford, funny that you should show up here, because as we move on from 9-10 tie to 8th place, we have Mansford in 8th place. So Mansford, another one of the lower division players. The bigger difference between Cyanide and Mansford that has Mansford ranked higher for me, despite Cyanide having a better kill, a better KDA and seal, is Mansford gives you a much better control of the meta. Mansford has a much deeper champion pool that gives you the ability to call on him to play different play styles. That doesn't mean that he doesn't prefer to play Sylas every game that he gets the option, but if you push him off of the Sylas, he has control mages, he has counter mages, he has other assassins.
And Corki.
He doesn't like Corki. No, that's not 30th, you're number 8. I didn't do 30. I would probably just crawl in a hole and cry if I tried to rank 30 people. It wouldn't work.
Well, we have 38 teams this season. XD.
It's not happening. Just above Mansford, we have the infamous Gelati. If you've ever laned against Gelati, you've walked into the game not knowing what to expect and walked out of the game wondering what just happened. Don't break the poor caster. Yeah, thanks, Quacks. Gelati is one of the most difficult people in the league to characterize, because Gelati plays just about everything. Gelati is an ex-Karthus one trick. If you ever let him have Karthus, you will regret every ounce of it, because even though you can beat him in lane, I've done it, he then goes to a side lane, shows up later with 350 CS, and melts your entire team with one Karthus ultimate. Don't let him play Karthus. It's not worth it. Past Karthus, Gelati has a freakishly deep champion pool. I've seen him play Soraka mid, for what that's worth, and win the game. He's capable of being a carry. He's capable of being a support. Really, he's just got a really, really deep champion pool, and it's incredibly difficult to figure out what to do against him.
He is the brains behind their squad with Tuba and Mayor of Huevos, I feel.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. Gelati knows more about this game than you've ever forgotten. If you ever have something about the game that you think that you need to like probe, Gelati's underlying knowledge of the statistics and the way the game runs is unreal. So just don't sleep on Gelati. He may be a washed up one trick at this point, but there's still flashes in the pan where that old man will make you regret underestimating him. Moving on past Gelati to number 6, we have a Potato. Potato Ari is, I think...
How dare you make that joke? Funny, but...
I mean, if I'm not roasting Potato Ari, am I even doing my job properly?
No, continue.
Potato Ari is a Zoe one-trick, despite being named Ari. I think maybe used to be an Ari one-trick. Potato Ari is a player who can have really outstanding games followed by really questionable games, depending on how they play the game. But one thing that you always know you've got with Potato Ari is he doesn't die very often. He plays a pretty good low-death, safe style, and while Potato's not going to carry your game because he's a potato, he is definitely capable of coming in swinging and backing up a team that's going to push for him. Kind of reflected in that fairly low kill participation that he has. Not the primary carry of his team by a long shot. Coming up next, we have a player that I really don't know that much about. Tied for 4th, we have Baby, who I know very well, and Monkey, who I don't know well, and I'm looking forward to playing on Sunday. Monkey has been in the lower division recently. He's one of the Imagine players. Monkey is a Talia one-trick, but from what I heard about how he was destroying the lower division, Monkey's pretty cracked, and not only on Talia. And just while we're talking about cracked, Monkey basically carried his team 1v9 last season with a kill participation of 73%. I don't know that there's anybody else who cracks the 70th percentile of kill participation on this list. So I'm really, really excited to see how Monkey performs on a more heavily stacked team in a higher division this season up in Ionia. Just above Monkey, we have another person who is role swapped. So last season, Baby was a mid laner in the lower divisions playing against the likes of Monkey. And Baby is one of the most oppressive laners I've ever played against. Baby likes control mages and likes to make it so you can't farm at all, ever. Or you pay for it. Having talked to Baby, I've heard that there's more than just control mages in his deep, deep pockets of champions. But I can tell you that from what I've seen, he plays control mages. He plays them exceptionally well. But he's a support this season. So for all of you who didn't want a Corki to beat your teeth in all game for no reason, you don't have to worry about it. Baby's off playing support somewhere else. Next up, we were called for him earlier. Blue Sox was looking for him. We have Eclipse at number 3. Eclipse kind of snuck up on a lot of people who wrote him off as a 80 carry switch to mid lane. But Eclipse showed really, really strong assassin play in both Ionia and Shurima last season. Single-handedly carrying his Shuriman team at times and going for a ride on the Ionian team that Stro was running the shots for. Eclipse demonstrated a really strong level of assassin play on Silas, Yasuo, and Echo. The biggest thing about Eclipse is if you camp Eclipse and kill him, he's an assassin player, and he tilts like nobody's business, and you can just kill him on repeat once you've got him tilted. Also switched out to ADC, I think, this season, continuing the trend of people who have switched out. Number 2 on our list, and one of the top-rated players in the entire league, the one, the only, Foozle Bamboozle. this guy's a monster. It was really hard not to rank him top on the list. The one thing that knocked Fuzel down just a peg is the fact that he requires resources. You need to be feeding your Fuzel, or your Fuzel will die. That being said, if you give Fuzel the resources, he is the most oppressive laner in Seal. On Cassiopeia, on Oriana, he will make the game absolutely unplayable for you. Yes, Vexed, I will post it later. Fuzel's a monster. Fuzel's also taking a split off.
Yep. Again, he was part of the Squirtle Squad.
He was part of that Squirtle Squad team that we smacked so hard that they're still like coming out of Oregon. Team Rocket blasted off to a point where they haven't landed yet. Which is sad because all of them are on this list. They were a strong, stacked team, and it's kind of disappointing to see them gone. But that's what happens when things fall apart sometimes. Moving past Fuzel, we have our top ranked mid laner, the resident Echo one trick. Yeah, Fuzel requires water and feeding daily. Failure to do so may result in inting.
Yes.
That is a very good way to put it.
Yes,
our resident top mid laner is Brewer. Mid laner for Players Reborn. The strengths that Brewer brings outside of his Echo, and he is not the Echo one trick that he used to be. Brewer can play just about anything. Sometimes you have to bully him into playing things that aren't an assassin, but when you do, you get really, really good results off of it. Brewer is a strong team player. He specializes in team play and especially ganking the bottom lane. Late game, he will be that 1v9 carry that you need. You're right, Squirrel. I should have said that he's easily tilted. But, we try not to push that button when we can help it. But if you've ever played against Brewer, you know that you have to spend 1 or 2 bans on his Echo and his Galio, which is still undefeated in Seal. And then he'll still pull something else out and absolutely make you regret the fact that you didn't ban that also. Easily one of the strongest players in Seal. The only thing that he's a little bit slower on sometimes is his lane control. Players like Fuzel can sometimes hose him up in mid lane. Untiltable in Seal matches. I think there's 1 or 2. I think that you're just untiltable in Seal matches because we went on such a massive winning streak.
Yep.
But moving on from the mid lane. Next up, we have our 80 carries. Somebody was asking about 80 carries later. Well, wait no longer. Here they are. First up for the 80 carries, in the 10th spot, we have Style and Kronk. So I apologize to all the 80 carry and support players. Like I said earlier that you might have missed, a lot of the underlying statistics that I was pulling were dropped off of the websites I was using before I got around to ADC and support. So some of the things are missing, but the overall rankings came from a pool of people who I think have a fairly good read on the game and strong opinions that were averaged and then run past the statistics that we had left. So in 10th place, we've got Style and Kronks, or Style 6 and Crons. It would help if I could say his name. Played in Shurima last season. Is more of a carry-focused laner, but can be exploited at times. And we got to pick this up a little bit, Ansem.
Yes, we do.
Because we got to get off of this in 10 minutes so that we can have the game following.
Game. So the game following is at, if we go ahead and look at the calendar, because we're all great and awesome, everybody can see this. It is at 9 o'clock.
Oh. Okay.
So, but let's go ahead and keep on moving along.
Yeah. In 9th place, we have Joe Killera, the Ash Slave. But joking aside, Joe plays a lot of attack speed-focused carries. He was on the Team Billy team that went undefeated a couple seasons ago, but then jumped up to a higher division and ran into a little bit of trouble last season. I believe he and Illuminati are down still smacking kids in the lower division this season. After him in 8th place, we've got Chaotix. I didn't have the opportunity to observe a whole lot of Chaotix play. He's one of the lower division AD carries that I am going more off of reputation and what other people have told me than my own personal view of his gameplay. But his underlying numbers are fantastic. There's not a whole lot of players with over a 67% kill participation. And his KDA and numbers kind of speak for themselves. It's 6.4 CS per minute, Squirrel. Read from left to right. Use your brain. Thank you. Just above Chaotix, probably Chaotix's top rival last season in the lower divisions was Zyniel.
Zenial.
Zyniel won the... Zenial?
Yep.
Okay. Zenial won the higher spot on a basis of stronger underlying statistics. The two of them were ranked pretty evenly across the people who I polled, but Zenial dies less, farms better, and participates in kills more. Therefore, Zenial ranked higher. Zenial also has one of the highest CS per minute across all of the 80 carries in Seal. Fun statistic.
I believe he was on Shitstorm last season, and this season, Shitstorm has split up into 2 separate teams, both of which are in Freljord, and will be going up against each other later on in the season. I think around the first week of February. So that's a gotta see matchup.
That should be wild. They wound up pulling the long shot and winning Freljord last season, didn't they?
Yep.
Just a plug that doesn't matter what place you finish the regular season in, you can definitely run it at the end. Just above Zenial in 6th place, we have the 80 carry from the Silverbacks, Huey. Huey is another one of those people who the number one thing that I had on notes for him from last season was that he's an Ashe slave, currently playing more Lucian, Ezreal, and Vayne than Ashe. Huey is a strong laner backed up by Vision Lord, but I think that Huey benefits a lot from having a powerful support next to him, is capable of being exploited at times in the side lanes when left alone. In 5th place, also taking the season off, I think, is Ultimate Ace.
Yep.
Ace is a strange player. Ace will play weird off-meta things. Ace is one of the people who picked up Syndra AD carry before a lot of other people
Talia.
Talia AD carry. Ace's ideas don't always work, but when they do, it can be pretty hard to prepare for. I think that Ace's characteristic champion would have to be Jinx or Caitlyn, and Ace's strengths are in avoiding dying in lane and then coming online at about 20 minutes with a power spike that you never saw coming. And I'm not disrespecting Huey, I just think that there's 5 people better than Huey in the league last season. As we continue up the AD carry list, in 4th place we have S King JKJ. I have no clue how to pronounce
King
that.
Jiki. King Jiki.
King Jiki. If you ever want to correct me, King, go right ahead. I would love to know how you expect that to be said. He played in Ionia last season. Has a questionable laning phase, not always a strong laner, but plays a lot of late game oriented carries. And if you let him farm and get online late game, can be absolutely destructive. I'll be interested to see how he plays this season because we're actually playing against him this season. And he is bolstered very, very heavily by his support. And we'll touch on that later. In a tie for 2nd and 3rd place, we have Rixie and Savori. Savori of Cloud 10 and of the Ambitious Alligators last season.
Ambiguous.
Oh, Ambiguous. They were ambitious. Skingji? Jiki? Sking JKJ? Sking Jiki? Alright. We'll figure it out later. That helps, though. Tied for second place, we have Rixie of Mouthfeel and Washed Up One Tricks, and Savory of the Alligators, and it's Skinny Pete. Yeah. Savory, the carry of Cloud 10, doing his best on that team with his top lane Alawi running it all the time.
Not allowed Alawi.
Gotta love Alawi One Tricks. Rixie, the Savory coming out swinging at his Alawi One Trick as we speak. Savory really, one of the deeper champion pools of the AD carries, will pull out champions that maybe haven't been in the meta for a little while and look really good on them. There's been a couple of games we played against Savory where, despite winning everywhere else, Savory's Caitlyn almost carried the game just based on positioning and damage output. One of the more slept on and underrated AD carries in the league. Tied with Savory, we have Rixie. Rixie again of that Mouthfeel team. Absolute team fight monster. Rixie is one of the people who, if you let them get to mid-late game, they will team fight you into the dirt and you will not be able to crawl back out. That being said, Rixie's laning phase is a little bit suspect. That's probably the time that Rixie's most exploitable if you kill them a lot in lane, kind of like we saw a couple days ago when the Silverbacks played them. Their champions can take a little longer to get online, and you can build yourself a lead to run to the end.
Yep, I agree.
In the top spot, you all know him as your 1v1 Seal champion. The Squirrel Sensei came into the arena and smacked people down. Squirrel is known for his proficiency on Ezreal and Ashe. I think that he had Ashe banned against him every week of Seal after the second. And he is a team fight carry. That doesn't mean that he won't kill you in lane. That just means that if you let him get to a team fighting state, he will decimate you. He's a KDA player. He has a KDA of 10. Over the last season, he has a KDA of 10. That's not a typo. He does not die much unless he flashes forward, and then he dies.
A lot.
A lot.
And then you will have his support be yelling at him a lot.
Yeah, one of the most dysfunctional bot lane pairings that somehow works.
Yep.
But in the top spot for ADC, that is Squirrel Sensei. He welcomes all comers. Come take his 1v1 crown away from him. He doesn't deserve it. I dove under turret just so he wouldn't cry when I beat him on CS. Moving on to the support list. Tied for 9th and 10th place, we have Spanish teacher of Cloud 10 and Mekit, previously of this team. I'm not sure where Mekit is right now.
I do not have an answer.
Playing this season?
I do not believe so. I do not believe so.
All right, well, so there's another one lost to attrition. Spanish teacher was a Bard one trick, has expanded his champion pool a little bit, but Spanish teacher gets carried by Savory. Let's just be real here. You take Spanish teacher's Bard away, and he just goes, Savory, Poppy, please, help me. Moving on. In number 8, we have Bixby, also of that Mouthfeel team, also taking the season off. Bixby was a support-heavy player, Yuumi one trick, and also played Morgana Karma. Really did the best that they could, just enabling the team that was Washed Up One Tricks to do their Washed Up One Trick things. In 7th, we have Aoka. Now, I have not had the privilege to watch too much of Aoka's gameplay, but from what I've heard, Aoka was an absolute monster down in the lower division, playing absolutely cracked on mages and engaged tanks alike. Yeah, a lot of people dropped after last season, and we got a lot of new people in this season. But don't worry, Nick. It's
fine.
It's always competitive.
It's fine.
Aoka was one of the harder players for me to rank because I have not personally watched much more than I think 1 or 2 games. And in the lower division, they were on a strong team. The biggest knock on Aoka's play is lack of vision. But the laning statistics and the way that the game gets played in the lower divisions probably has a little bit to do with that. Moving on, in 6, we have Sweet Fiend, who was here earlier. I hope you're still here, Sweet Fiend. We got you in 6th. That's another mage player. Sweet Fiend was a shining light on a team that really underperformed last season. I believe in Team Billy.
So Iama, that's Iama. So this is just based off. This is just based off of last season players that were expected coming into this season.
I know you're playing Iama. I haven't seen you play, and I don't recall you playing last season, so that's why you're not here. But if you're laning with Rixie, you'll probably land on this list by playoffs. Rixie pulls their players up a lot. And Spanish, sit down. Sweet Fiend, one of the few players on this top 10 list from all roles with a kill participation over 70%. And a pretty solid vision score, despite the fact that it was not the most friendly situation and they got run down a lot playing mages in Shurima last season. In 5th place, we have Mycroft Holmes, the Thresh God, who was also on the Squirtle Squad team that is not returning. And so, because of time constraints, we're going to move right on to 4th place. I'm personally filing a complaint. I had Vision Lord ranked higher, but he did not make it that high in a lot of the rankings that other people gave me. So Vision Lord falls to 3rd.
You mean 4th?
Or falls to 4th. I had him ranked 3rd. My bad. Vision Lord falls to 4th. Vision Lord is notable for being able to play just about any style of support that you need. Vision Lord is one of the stronger supports in the league, just in general, particularly when it comes to controlling vision, but also when it comes to adapting to the meta. The biggest knock against Vision Lord is that he can sometimes be overly aggressive and find himself caught in a bad spot. I have heard him referred to as the discount version of Dr. Dad a couple of times.
Wonder who from.
And it wasn't Dr. Dad who said that. Putting that out there. It was from one of the people who I got rankings from. In 3rd place, we have Ystariel, who has a shallower champion pool than a lot of the other picks here, but Ystariel will pull weird things out like Jinx support that
with
Mikhails,
really
good, and then other times they're just an epic disaster and you don't really know what happened and which way's up.
Hey Cage, remember when Ystariel pulled out Jinx support in the show match for Shurima vs Ionia, and because of that everybody thought that Shurima didn't actually win against Ionia because of that?
Yeah, for the record, anybody who thinks that Ystariel thinks Jinx support's a viable thing and has done it numerous times, don't at me. And his own team was flaming him for that. Ystariel's biggest knock is low vision score. Ystariel has the lowest vision score of any of the supports, I think, in the higher divisions by a pretty significant margin. So if you're playing against Ystariel, just know that he's probably blind. In 2nd place, we have the most toxic player in Seal, the support of Players Reborn, Dr. Dad. If he hasn't spammed Lulu Laugh at you, he hasn't actually played against you. Dad is notorious for his Enchanter play, and according to some other commentators of the game, playing Cancer Champions exclusively. He's also been accused of being ranked higher than he should be because he plays with Squirrel. Dad coming in with a KDA of 7.5 though, has one of the highest KDAs in the league also, but his kill participation of 67% is fairly higher than Squirrel's, so you can make all the arguments you want about Squirrel carrying him, but he's involved in things that even Squirrel doesn't get his hands on. Vision score of 68, I think, is the highest or second highest in the league.
His top 3 champions are all elo inflating.
Yeah, no, he is tied for top vision score in the league with our first ranked player, Miss Sylvie of Team Harmony. Miss Sylvie came in and played for a bad Team Harmony team up in Ionia last season, and somehow still managed to pull out a KDA of 5.5 on predominantly mages. Miss Sylvie, though, does also have a small pool of tanks and engage players, so they're not limited just to the Lux brand Vel'Koz style of gameplay. That being said, Sylvie is an absolutely devastating person to lane against, helped along by Skinny Pete, and that is our top 10 players in all 5 roles for Seal after last season. As fast as I could possibly get through it.
Yeah, because you're dying now.
But this will be posted later for anyone who's interested in looking at it, looking at some of the analysis of it. Again, I apologize to the ADC and support players who wound up with a slightly less impressive player card. Just know that this took forever, and I procrastinated the end of it because it was a much bigger endeavor than I anticipated, and that's part of why everything fell off until I got a chance to do it. Vexed is washed up. Let's see, what else have I missed?
I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, that Vex Dragon is trash.
Vex Dragon is trash. And Miss Sylvie's an absolute freak of nature.
Mm-hmm.
Amo, your vision score isn't all that was taken into account with this. I'm assuming you were playing in a lower division.
He was.
Your underlying statistics weren't as good.
He was
outside of Seal. This is ranked. The power rankings here and everything were a hybrid of Seal statistics as well as ranked statistics.
Yeah, because back when I was support back for Seal's Season 1, 2, even Season 3, I was one of the top vision supports in Seal with like a 90 in almost every single season, if not just under. That would have been my biggest thing. Everything else after that was just going to be like horrible.
Biased caster. Yeah, well, I did my best not to be biased with this. It's kind of difficult to not be biased when you're coming from the team that just beat every other team in the league. Pretty convincingly.
Yep. 2-0'd the Shurima versus Ionia match.
So, a lot of this was based on more statistical analysis because when my initial ranking lists came out, I didn't like the fact that they looked biased. But then the numbers underneath everything held up what the ranks came out to be. And I can't be held responsible for the ADC and support rankings because I only was one of 5 people who contributed to them. So you can take that up with the whole Seal as a community.
Oh no.
But that's all I have for you today, folks. We will post the link for this somewhere. I don't know where.
Probably general or announcements. We'll figure that out when we get there. But thank you for being here for the first episode of Unsealed. This will be one of the few things that we'll be doing about once a week on Thursdays. They will be hosted primarily by Scattercat for the foreseeable future. I will host a couple of them here and there, but he wants to take over this as he has been asking for this for a while, and I agreed that this show should have came back a long time ago. And Squirrel is just flexing. Okay. Alright. Thank you, Cage Reaper, for coming on to the show. And good luck, everybody. Our next match for Seal will be at 9 p.m. EST, and that will be the Ionian Division's Imagine Infernal versus Team Harmony. So make sure to check it out in just a couple of hours. Any last words?
I don't think so. Mad 'cause bad.
Yep. Matt
Later,
goes
y'all.
bad. Alright, bye-bye, everybody.